Okay, today we've got a full tutorial on how to install stair skirting. We've got straight stairs, we've got a landing, we've got winder stairs, matching up to trim, just about everything you could need all in this video. As you can see, my stairs have absolutely no trim except a little bit on the landing, and it looks pretty terrible with this ugly carpet. So I'm getting new carpeting installed, but before I do, I want to get this stair skirting in. First things first, we're going to be tearing out this old carpeting so we have a clean slate to work with. For all of this skirting, I'm using 1x12 primed pine boards. Instead of trying to cut around the nose of all the stair treads, we decided to notch them out to the size of the trim on each side. To do this, we lined the board up and marked out the tread where the trim hit. Then I took my speed square and marked how far back the riser was on the nose. Then I took my multi-tool and cut those notches out. I had a scrap board to make sure it fit in the notches that I had cut out. It also helped to take a crowbar or hammer to pop these pieces out. Once we had all of the notches cut, we took the full board and made sure it fit in them. Then I tacked the board into the wall with a brad nail so it wouldn't move when I was tracing the stairs. To figure out where we needed to cut out the stairs, I took a framing square and leaned the square up against the riser to get the correct angle and drew a line up to the same height of the riser to the top of the stair tread. I wrote those heights next to the line just so I could check them later if needed. Again, you want the full height that it will need to go around. So the angle of the riser and then the line will need to be as long as the riser plus the thickness of the stair tread. I repeated this for all the stairs, and then from there, I connected the bottom of the top lines to the top of the next line, making that 90-degree angle of the stair. To mark off where the landing started, I just traced that wall as a cutoff point. Then I took this outside and checked my measurements and used my circular saw to cut all of the stairs out and a jigsaw to get into the corners. For the bottom part that is going to be going into the winder stairs, I just cut it off at the same size that my trim would be so that it was all a uniform length. I will then butt my other trim piece up to this one to start out the winder stairs. There might be some gaps, but it's not a huge deal because the carpeting will cover it. If you're not getting new carpeting, you can just make small adjustment cuts as needed to get it to fit tight. Then we are moving up to the top stairs. You'll do the same thing and cut out the notches. I'm going to have this meet up with the trim at the top, but I'm putting new trim in throughout the whole house that is higher than the current trim, so that is what I use to line it up to. I did the same thing and traced out each of the stairs and cut them out. You can see here that we cut off the top to transition it to the floor trim. The bottom part is cut to match up with the straight stair trim height, and then it lines up with the wall for the rest of it, covering up that edge there. I did the same thing again on the other side and measured and cut the stairs. For the bottom of these, I used the height again of the trim that I would be using as the width for the cutoff point. I didn't get a very good recording of this, but what I mean is this width is the same as what this trim's height is going to be. The trim at the top lines up with the cutoff again. And now time for the winder stairs. The bottom stair skirting is going to be meeting up with this door casing, and I plan to match this door casing to the same style trim as the window here. The issue is that the new casing is thicker than the current casing, so I had to do that first. I've got another video on that if you're interested. But now that that's done, I can do the bottom step. I first matched the angle needed to line up with the door casing and cut that off so I could fit the board in and trace out my stairs. I got those cut, and you can see how the bottom butts up to that casing. For the top, I will be transitioning it into the winder stair trim. Next, I'll be doing the inside of the winder stairs. I'll eventually be putting wainscoting on the wall to hide the edge. But to get the correct shape, I decided to use construction paper to make a template. I used the same angle of the straight stairs for the top, Then the front of it will cover up the bottom edge of the straight stair trim. I made the template go around the stairs and then laid it out on a board to get it cut out. Once that was the right shape, I moved on to the regular trim for the winder stairs. I decided to do mitered corners for mine, but you can also butt the pieces up against one another. For each step, I just measured to where the notch was, and that's where the inside of my miter was cut. I also mitered the inside corner pieces. For the stair piece, I made that the same height as the trim, then aligned that to go the same length as the inner winder stair piece across from it. I got all of the horizontal pieces in and then traced the vertical pieces from there. Once I got those cut, they slide right in perfectly. Then it was time to move to the easiest part, the landing. You can use actual trim, but I had a lot of these pine boards, so I just ripped them down to 4.5-inch strips. I mitered the inside corners and cut them to length. I did the same thing with the top of the straight stair skirt and matched that to the height of the trim and cut it down to match the same width that the other side of the stairs comes out to. Once that was cut down, I cut the other landing trim board to size and got everything fit in. One other thing I did, because it felt kind of drafty near the window, was to spray foam in the cracks of the exterior wall. I cut all of that down and it helped quite a bit with the draftiness. Then I painted all of the pieces before I attached them. I marked out where the studs were and brad nailed all of the separate pieces in. I used wood putty to fill all of the joints to make it look like one smooth, cohesive piece. Then I went ahead and caulked everything really well. I went back in and did some wood filler on the holes from the brad nails and touched up the paint. And then I was finally done. You can see that it adds a lot more character and nice detail to this area. This was a somewhat daunting project to me before I got started because I was trying to figure out how to best do it, but once you get going, it's really not very hard. There are just a lot of different steps. You could also add different details to this to customize it to your preference. But overall, this is a project I'm really glad I did, and I'm really happy with the results. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.